Welcome to our physics daily, and I want us to answer very few questions so that it can keep you going as far as physics is concerned. I want us to pick from question 6. It states, state two advantages and one disadvantage of alkaline cells of a lead acid accumulator. Lead acid accumulator and the alkaline accumulators or the alkaline cells, the two of them are what you call the secondary cells. They are the one that can be recharged, and because they can be recharged, that one cannot be advantage of one over the other, but we can pick. Being asked to give advantages of one over the other one, it's like you are asked, why should you pick alkaline accumulators and not lead acid accumulators? So listen here. They have requested for two advantages, but I will give you several. They have requested for one disadvantage, but I will give you several. State two advantages. So the first one is large currents can be drawn from them over a short period of time. Large currents can be drawn from them over a short period of time. They require very little attention to maintain. They require very little attention to maintain. They are lighter. Therefore, they are more portable. They can be carried from one place to another very easily. They can be kept in a discharged condition for a very long time before the cells are ruined. For lead acid accumulators, you cannot keep it in a discharged condition for a very long period of time. Yes, but for alkaline accumulators, you can keep it in a discharged condition for a very long period of time. So those are the advantages. The disadvantages of alkaline cells, they include, number one, they are very expensive. They are very, very expensive compared to the lead acid accumulators, compared to the dry cells. Yes. Also, they have a lower EMF per cell. They have a lower EMF per cell. So question 6 is fully answered. Name two advantages which lead accumulator has over a dry cell. Remember, dry cell is the primary cell. A lead accumulator is the secondary cell. So one of the advantages, lead accumulator can be charged. It can be recharged once the cells are over, while a dry cell cannot be recharged. That is the main advantage. The other advantage is a large current can be drawn from accumulators, from lead accumulator compared to the dry cell. Large currents can be drawn from lead accumulator compared to the dry cell. Yes. Let's look at question 8. Give a reason why it is necessary to leave the gaps of the cells open when charging an accumulator. Give a reason why it is necessary to leave the gaps of the cells open when charging an accumulator. It is because when charging an accumulator, there is production of hydrogen gas. There is production of hydrogen gas that needs to escape. So if you don't leave the gaps open, the cell will, it will burst. Now, to avoid that, we leave the gaps open so that any hydrogen produced can escape out of the cell. State the reason for topping up a lead acid accumulator with distilled water. State the reason for topping up a lead acid accumulator with distilled water. The key word here is distilled water, not just water, but distilled water. The reason is because distilled water has no impurities. It has no impurities. It has no ions. It has been deionized. When we are topping, is to maintain the levels of the cells of the chemicals of the cell. So distilled water works well because it has no impurities. Question 10. Give a reason why it is not advisable to smoke a cigarette near a charging battery. So this one doesn't mean that you are now allowed to smoke near a charging battery. But you are advised not to. If you have to smoke, then smoke away from charging battery. So it's because A charging battery produces hydrogen gas, which is highly flammable. Which is highly flammable. Which is highly flammable. Next question. It is common practice that once an accumulator is recharged, the terminals are connected using a wire so as to assess its state of charge. How is this dangerous to the life of the accumulator? How is this dangerous? This practice is common with young boys, with small boys. They like connecting the positive and the negative terminal, and then they see production of sparks, and they feel happy. They don't know that they are ruining the accumulator. So how is this dangerous to the life of the accumulator? It reduces the functionality of the accumulator. Why? Because connecting the two terminals short circuits. It causes short circuit of the cell. It causes short circuit of the cell, hence ruining the cell. So the keyword here is it causes short circuiting of the cell. Yes. So those are some of the questions that we can check. You can see the next question there. It is saying recharging is one of the practices of maintenance of accumulators. State two measurements that need to be taken when an accumulator is due for charging. Sometimes you want to charge an accumulator, but you don't know whether it is time to charge it or not. Yeah. So the main point here is the EMF and the relative density. The EMF and the relative density. So those are the two measurements that needs to be taken. EMF and what? The density. Now, question 13 reads, state two qualities. Now, when they talk of qualities, it is the same question as question 12, but you are supposed now to mention the specific value. State two qualities that are used to determine whether an accumulator requires charging or not. Now, the accumulator should be charged when the EMF of the cell drops below 1.8 volts. When the EMF of the cell drops below 1.8 volts, and when the relative density of the acid is falls below 1.12. How do we get the relative density? By use of an hydrometer. Hydrometer is used to measure what? The densities of liquid. So when the EMF drops below 1.8 volts, or when the relative density drops below 1.12. So thank you. We meet again. Check for my several videos on physics and chemistry lessons. Subscribe to it and share to any high school student. God bless you.